Oh hi, it's your old buddy Zoo here, and today we're taking a look at a blast from the past. At least my past. Do you guys remember NeoGeo? It was an arcade game platform from SNK, and it had a ton of great arcade games in the 1990s. Fatal Fury, Samurai Showdown, King of Fighters, Metal Slug, any of those ring a bell? If you went to arcades back in the day, or heck, even a Pizza Hut, remember those little nooks they used to have at Walmart with like 3 or 4 cabinets and a claw game? Anyway, if you went to any of those places, then you probably remember NeoGeo games. NeoGeo games were 2D and sprite-based, and when the whole arcade industry started moving towards 3D games, SNK and NeoGeo stayed put. In the year of our Lord 2025, it's pretty clear that pixel art was timeless and has aged much better than the mid-90s 3D messes we got back then. But at the time, it was basically the death knell for NeoGeo. They tried to release some home arcade consoles, but they were big, expensive, and couldn't really compete in the marketplace against Sega and Nintendo and then Sony. The parent corporation of NeoGeo, SNK, went bankrupt in 2001 and eventually ended up making games for the Atomic Wave arcade system. So until now, NeoGeo games have only really existed in old arcades and emulation. This thing arriving is kind of serendipitous because we just wrote an article on our website about the NeoGeo X. A little over 12 years ago, SNK went into business with a company called Blaze Europe, which I don't know if you can tell, they were from Europe, and a company called Tomo, which you can't really tell, but they were from America. I guess if their name was Tomo America, it'd be easier to tell. But suffice to say, those 3 companies worked together to build a candy bar device with a repurposed PSP screen, and they launched it in 2012. It was kind of revolutionary for its time, but the NeoGeo X never really went too far. Shortly after it was released, SNK and Tomo got into a prolonged legal fight, and the device kind of died. You can read a lot more about this on our website, and Jim did a really good job writing it up. But the main takeaway, the too long didn't read, is that while SNK and Tomo were fighting, Blaze Europe was innovating. Now, Blaze Europe didn't get into a pissing match, and instead, they used their experience with the ill-fated NeoGeo X to go on to make the Evercade system. And since the universe always loves the complete circles, Evercade, through their sister company Hyper Megatech, has released the Super Pocket NeoGeo Edition right here. You can buy these from different storefronts worldwide, but for those of us in the US, they're on Amazon for $70. There's also a sweet MVS-themed limited edition with a really awesome and really vibrant color scheme, but it's $20 more. And I'm kind of a cheapskate when it comes to limited editions, so I went with the normal one. Let's unbox this real quick. Well, there goes the resale value. Well, I just ripped everything. There's tape. There's stickers, Zoo. Let that be a lesson for you. There's a sticker over there. And over here. Ruined. Everything just ruined. Oh well. We have our super simple manual. And it's kind of a poster of all the cool Evercade cartridges you can buy. And then the actual handheld itself. Comes with a charging cable, and that's about it. The NeoGeo Super Pocket here comes in a vertical form factor, and it has a NeoGeo-inspired color scheme. It's also preloaded with 14 NeoGeo arcade games. It supports the entire Evercade library through this cartridge slot. This one's just kind of a dummy to fill the gap, but you can see it has pins in there, so if you have any Evercade carts, you can play them on here. And this device in general, at $70, is actually a pretty cost-effective way to enter the Evercade space. I mean, Blaze could have been a bunch of assholes and made the cart slightly different, but no, they're all cross-compatible, and I really do appreciate that. The Super Pocket has a 2.8-inch IPS screen with a resolution of 320 by 240, which is actually a pretty small little 4x3 screen, especially in 2025. But it has vibrant colors and a nice bright screen, and it's well suited for the games you're going to be playing on here and the overall size of the device. You have a 3,000 milliamp hour battery back here, which will get you at least 4 hours of gaming in between charges, and it takes a USB-C, so you'll have plenty of cables lying around that are compatible with this USB-C port. And finally, especially as a retro handheld in the Game Boy form factor, it correctly has the headphone jack on the bottom, which is nice, but it's also correct. should always be there. There's a basic menu on here where you can do save states, you can check your controls, and you can also change your display a little bit. So you can change your aspect ratio, and you can add scan lines. You have the option between none, subtle, or strong. I'm gonna go with strong just to show them off. Is it picking it up really good on the camera? It looks good in person. I don't know how it's picking it up on the camera, but it's kind of a neat CRT effect that gives this, I don't know, just an old school kind of feel. You can also change your aspect ratio. I'm just gonna go with full screen because this is a 4:3 screen and I kind of want to maximize my real estate. The menu button is also super handy because these save states. Like, there's what, 6 slots? So it's not crazy. It's not like you have RetroArch on here, but it's really useful if you're waiting for the bus or something and you need to stop playing in a hurry. You can save your state and then just stop. Turn it off on the bottom. Let's go over the buttons on here. You have your select and your start down here, which they're not the best in the world, but they're not super loud and they get the job done. The D-pad, actually not that bad. I mean, it's a weird looking D-pad, but it's pretty responsive, especially for arcade games. The face buttons, I think, are a little bit shallow, but otherwise they're a really good size, especially compared to the overall size of this device, and they're very well placed. And on the back here, you have your shoulder buttons. I think they mainly put these on here just to future-proof this. You know, if you wanted to put some higher-end Game Boy Advance, maybe some PlayStation games on an Evercade cart. But for the games that this comes with, I haven't really found a use for these. Oh, and by the way, there's volume on the back. Let's turn the volume up a little bit. Impromptu speaker test. Now this does have 14 games on it. We can put them all on the screen, and they're all certified NeoGeo bangers. When you load your game, since it is an arcade ROM, you have that weird arcade loading screen, and your select over here, here's your coins. Coin button go brrr, and you press your start to start. Easy peasy. As I mentioned earlier, this goes for about $70 on Amazon, which isn't much in the grand scheme of things, but it is pretty expensive for a handheld with the gameplay range of, say, an RK3326. You could get an R36S or one of these not Anbernic Batley 350s for about half the price and play tens of thousands of games. So from a pure min-max standpoint, this is pricey. However, the games that come with this and all the Evercade carts are officially licensed. There's no moral gray area here. You know, the companies that own these old games are getting their 25-cent residual when you play Samurai Showdown or you buy an Evercade cart loose. So if you're one of those people who likes to complain about how scummy it is that these Chinese emulation devices ship with a bunch of ROMs, I guess here's a chance to put your money where your mouth is. Another massive benefit of these Super Pocket devices are how easy they are to use. You turn them on, you wait a couple seconds while the different company names show up, and then boom, you're in your interface. There's no crazy menus, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no RetroArch to fiddle with. There's really not a lot of settings at all besides what you see on this screen. For some of you, this probably sounds terrible, but if you ever had to set up a device as a gift for someone without a lot of tech skills, it's kind of perfect. You could hand this to pretty much anyone with a pulse, and they can find their way to Metal Slug X, or maybe Samurai Showdown. Pretty cool. Also, if you are a hacker man, there may or may not be flash cards available that fit in this slot back here, but that's a different video. There's also a collector's mentality about these devices that scratches a weird itch in my brain. Like, I appreciate the idea of FPGA devices because I have a bunch of old carts for old systems. And I also like how there's a legitimate path to buy licensed games, especially since Evercade, at least for the most part, will pack a ton of games on each cart, anywhere between 5 to like a dozen. So if you do have that need to own physical media, or you like to display your boxes or carts on a shelf, not this box, I ripped it up opening it, or even if you just like collecting the different Super Pocket devices themselves, it's kind of cool in an old school way to have physical stuff you can buy and then own for real life. I know that's an odd thought to have in this day of all digital, but you can own this in real life and no one can take it away from you, unless like your house gets repossessed because you don't pay your bills because your name is Ban and you have a handheld addiction. Well, Gary, it's time for What Did We Learn? And we learned that the Super Pocket NeoGeo is a vertical retro handheld device that ships with 14 NeoGeo games and can run over 600 other games through Evercade carts. In a direct head-to-head comparison with a budget emulator like the Batley 350 here, where copyright protection and black and white morality don't apply, it honestly comes up short. However, if you want something super simple, super plug and play, and super easy for a brand new user, then these Super Pockets might be right up your alley. You're also paying for licensed games, so you get rid of that whole scummy feeling you might get with your ROMs, I mean legal backups. And you get physical media with boxes and posters and stuff if you're someone who likes collecting things. It's also kind of a neat intermediate zone in between super cheap emulation devices and expensive FPGA devices. You might not be getting that exact OG latency experience, but you do have a physical cart you can swap in and out, and some people like that sort of thing. If you like this sort of thing, aka my Zany Zoo review videos, then be sure to like and subscribe and all that jazz. And let us know in the comments if you're a big Evercade person. I like the idea of Evercade. I always get excited when I see they're dropping a new cart, especially when there are articles or podcasts about the lore of that collection. And I was glad to see that the actual hardware on this thing matched up to my expectations. I think maybe if there was the option for an arcade stick with the ball on top, that'd be amazing, but that might also be a lot more expensive. But I guess that's just old Zoo's opinion. Be sure to let us know your opinions in the comments. I know none of you are really shy about letting me know your opinions in the comments, even if they are hurtful things that make me very sad in the small hours of the night when I reflect on them. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.